Hello, welcome to game 2 of this medium games match. HaloAndy is up 1-0. First to 3. This is Fika's first player, so they're hoping to ride that to an advantage. We have a pretty powerful setup here, I think. You've got Church and Market Square to print golds. You can have talismans to get multiple market squares and sleighs and stuff. The problem is we don't have a village. So you can get thin with Church. Mint even potentially doesn't seem terrible if you can get an early mint off. There really isn't a way to make Tactician work, double Tactician work. You could potentially play single Tactician. There's Harvest, but I don't think you're going to get enough BP from that. So I retract my this is going to be a powerful kingdom. Statement, there's still a lot of fun stuff you can do. I think double Church makes a lot of sense. Try to spike an early 5 to get mint. Although that deck is going to then struggle to hit 3. So I think you might open Church Market Square, hope a little bit for the high roll. And there's a decent chance of doing that with Church. Church is good at setting stuff aside. The idea would be you draw Church on turn 3. You set aside all coppers in Market Square. Then on turn 4, you draw the rest of your coppers, you trash an estate, discard the market square for a gold, buy 5 coppers and mint, and then your deck is gold, mint, Church, market square, 2 coppers, 2 estates, and you kind of roll from there. That is one, I think, pretty reasonable build order, and then you just transition to Church money, where you set aside your green cards and buy a couple provinces. So in that build, basically you're buying like another market square, another Church, gaining 3 golds, and then your deck's just buying single provinces from turn 6, even 7, if you get the high roll draw. Andy has the 5-2. I think you just suck it up and click on Church here. And I think you set aside 2 maybe and buy a sleigh. Sleigh doesn't seem terrible early on. I'm not super clear what your terminal is going to be in the end. A sleigh seems like as good a terminal as any. I want to have a super thin deck. Ratcatcher or Raise. Yeah, I definitely prefer Raise. You can trash every turn. It's easier to collide Raise with Market Square. Neither player opened Church Market Square. Maybe they're thinking that it's a bit of a high roll. I think it's kind of like 50-50 that you get the optimal draw. So we'll see. I thought either Church or Church Market Square were the best. If I could go Church, and you went Ratcatcher Rabble, which I do not like. Especially because this deck is going to be devoid of green cards momentarily. Maybe you get some high rolls with Rabble stuff. But Fika seems pretty far ahead at this point. They can gain a gold here. Buy another market square. Maybe they buy the another market square or the sleigh seem reasonable. Sleigh is kind of like a lab, and it lets you do some top deck stuff. If you gain a gold, you can gain it in top deck yet. You probably won't play the mint. I think the golden deck I described, JCK, is fast enough opening Church Market Square. I think that's fast enough to beat the money deck, but I'd have to run some practices. They trashed the Raise. I guess they have double Church, so set aside 3 here, please. Ooh. If you set aside 3, you could have minted this turn, trashed 5 coppers, gained 2 golds, bought yourself another sleigh, and then basically you're golden. Right? Literally, you have gold. And your deck is so thin that you can draw deck every turn, set aside your junk with Church, just start buying provinces. That deck can support up to 3 provinces trivially. So like you have a couple golds, a couple market squares, the two Churches which are alternating turns. So basically all you need to do is your hand needs to end up being 3 golds and Church. And then you can support up to 4 greens and set aside 3. So, and then once you've got 4 provinces, you're generally okay with missing a turn or so often, because then you just set aside the gold a gold or two. And you'll definitely hit it the next turn with the amount of golds in the deck. So it looks like neither player is going for that. I don't understand why they're buying Rabbles. You can get all the way thin here. I don't think so, Moyo. As I said, I think the Church Market Square mint thing gets to Golden Deck really fast and can get up to like 4 provinces very quickly. And it can continue to build. It can continue to get provinces by just setting aside the golds on turns where it doesn't see them all. This 3 market squares feels a bit much. I think a sleigh is doing more for your deck than 3 market squares. I realize they're just now gold flooding, which is nice. But they could have... the mint is so nice here to be able to trash 5 coppers all at once. And Church makes it really easy to make that work. So they could have been a couple turns faster than they are here. As it is, they're greening now pretty aggressively, which makes sense. For Andy, I believe this needs to be a duchy. The way that Fika's greening and Andy's been greening, although I don't think these decks are quite ready for it. I definitely would rather be thin of all my coppers on this kingdom. I think single tacked, in the build I mentioned, it's so fast that it's not clear to me what single tack is doing for you. I could see like if you have the 4 provinces already, and you hit 5 and your opponent's still building, you might go single tack, because the single tack lets you set up like a double church thing and help. But over the single tacked over the duchy, basically, I don't really want to add duchies to that deck. I want to only add provinces. So if you hit a random 5 in the middle there, maybe the single tack makes a little bit of sense. Yeah, you got to remember sheep on this kingdom. Andy needs to, I think, take the province here. They're not going to win if they don't find it. Fika certainly had the better open with the 3-4, and I liked the Church open. I didn't like the Rabble open. I think the mint stuff is still good. Maybe if I have energy later today, I'll go into the bot and show what the Church Market Square build looks like and add that to this playlist to see. It could be wrong. Sometimes my intuition is completely wrong, so it's very possible that this is that I'm wrong, but it's worth trying. So moving on to game 3, tied.